for a long time.
Well, first of all, I want to ask you all a question.
Please do.
Like, now that I'm in the media, does that make a difference in terms of how I treat you all and what I do?
How you treat us? What will you tell us?
I'm just kidding.
No, I think for a long time, obviously you guys won so much on the field, and your coaches were everywhere in the SEC. You guys at Alabama were kind of face of the sport for a long time. What was that dynamic like, and how aware were you of that, of how much you sort of defined the sport for that time?
Well, I think that I was always so focused on, the process of trying to get it right with the people that we had in the organization, trying to help people develop the habits that would help them be more successful in what they were trying to do. That it really was about helping them be champions, not necessarily winning a championship. And I always told the players, if we have a team full of champions, we'll win a championship. So everybody needs to develop the habits that are going to help them be all that they can be the best that they can be, which is the point I made earlier. And I think that benefited us tremendously because our focus wasn't on the outcome, it was on what do we have to do to get the outcome. And I think that helped us deal with success. We treated winning and losing the same and tried to learn from both of those regards in terms of how we could get better. And I think that was helpful to the players as well as the staff, as well as me personally, focusing on that instead of we got to win.
Coach, obviously helping others as a coach, when you went into this full time on game day with ESPN, who did you lean on for guidance to help teach you and maybe help correct some of the things you do differently?
Yeah, well, the people at ESPN have been tremendously helpful to me to, learn how to be able to express things in a way that would be helpful to fans and to promote the game. I think the biggest difference is when you're a coach, you kind of look at everything through a straw, You're looking at your team, who you're playing, being involved in game day. You look at everything from 1,000 feet. You're looking at the whole country, every team, every player. Like, if I was coaching, I would have no appreciation for what a great competitor Scatterboo was, playing for Arizona State. But being in this, you develop a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for what everyone in the country is accomplishing, especially in college athletics. So, that's been a fun journey for me.
Coach, what would you say if your mother and father were present here today?
I don't know, but I can say this, that, there was a lot of folks that I grew up around that associated with my parents that would come to games, on occasion. My dad's best friend was Willie Criado. They had the same birthday. My dad died early, but Willie went to 95 or something. But he used to come to games at Alabama. And the thing that made me most proud was when somebody that I grew up with from West Virginia that knew my parents would say, your dad would really be proud of the way your team played. That was the best compliment that I could ever get.
Time, what's something that you would reflect on looking back at your piece of advice you would give yourself?
The best piece of advice, and I always say this when I speak, is I was a very transactional leader, early in my coaching career. Everything was about winning, more outcome-oriented. And in 1998, when I was a coach at Michigan State, they were talking about firing me. And we went and played Ohio State at Ohio State, and I didn't think we could win. And I called a psychiatrist and said, I don't know what to say to the team. I don't think we can win, and I was focused on winning. And he said, you need to become a transformational leader. You need to set a good example. You need to be somebody that somebody can emulate. You need to help people for their benefit. And you need to focus on the things that you need to do that are simple, that become effective ways to do a great job. Like play one play at a time. Focus on the next play. Don't look at the scoreboard. External factors will impact the game. Things like that. So we went and played one play at a time and won the game and beat the #1 team in the country. So I think that made me a much more of a transformational leader. And if you look at my record prior to that game and after that game, it changed dramatically because philosophically I changed in terms of, what kind of leader I wanted to be and how I wanted to impact other people.
An odd question, but I want to talk about the shoulder pads. They're huge. When you played in the 80s and they're shrinking now. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on the evolution, or if you remember as a coach when those things got smaller, and if you noticed any safety concerns.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Just when you think about what happened to giant shoulder pads, and they're much smaller now. I'm curious if you thought about that evolution.
Well, I think there's always been, especially for me as a coach, a tremendous amount of respect for player safety. And I think more importantly, the technology and the changes we've made in helmets, the changes we made in rules for the game to protect against concussions or whatever the injury might be, are all something that I've always been very much committed to. So if we have smaller shoulder pads now, I'm sure they're better.
Coach, you were a young person at Kent State University, God James asked you into the coaching profession. What were your dreams and aspirations at that point? When did you realize that maybe you thought you could go beyond that?
I didn't have any dreams and aspirations. Look, Coach James asked me to be a graduate assistant. I actually played baseball, so we had the spring coming up to play baseball. And he said, I want you not to play baseball. I want you to come here in spring practice. We got a new secondary coach. I think it would be beneficial if you went to graduate school and became a coach. And I said, well, Coach, I don't want to go to graduate school, and I don't want to be a coach. So this doesn't make much sense to me. And Miss Terry and I were married, and I said to him, he said to me, she has another year of school. You can't go take a job anywhere. It would be beneficial to you to get a master's. And he talked me into getting a master's degree. So my goals and aspirations was to be a coach for 1 year, get a master's degree, and go do something else. But I loved it. I loved the coaching. I loved the work. I loved being involved in the game. I loved the relationships with the players. I liked the fact that it was still competitive, just as competitive from a coaching standpoint as it was from a playing standpoint, which I never viewed it that way. When I was a player, you always look at the coach as somebody making you do something you really don't want to do. But anyway, so the next year I became a part-time coach. The next year, Coach James left, and I became a full-time coach. So these things just happen. And then eventually you get to the point where you say, wow, I'm not sure I could afford to do something else, because you've invested so much in it, and you see that you kind of reach new horizons, along the way. You try to be the best secondary coach, then you get a job being a coordinator, then you go to the NFL, and then you become a coordinator in the NFL, then you think you have a chance to be a head coach. So there was never a good jumping off point.
All
right, last question.
So many issues facing us in athletics, especially right now. If there was one thing that you could maybe help change or want to see change, it could be something to do first. What do you think that should be?
No, I think that we need some governing body in college athletics. I think that we need a commissioner, which I'm not interested in being, and we probably need some kind of a competition committee to sort of, like they have in the NFL, make the game better and make sure that everybody's playing by the same rules. And I think that to have those things, we probably need to have some kind of legislation, whatever it might be, to protect college football from litigation, because the NCAA not being able to enforce their rules because of lawsuits is what got us to where we are now. So if we don't have antitrust exemption or something where we can create a level playing field for everyone and do it in a way that still promotes people developing value for their future, which means getting an education as well as developing a career as a football player, I think we might be going in the wrong direction. So hopefully we can right the ship and those things happen and we can move in a forward direction. I do think that we have as great amount of interest in college athletics right now as ever, but I think that's sort of because the playoffs create that. But then when you look beyond that, what do we have? We have people opting out of bowl games. We have players not wanting to play in bowl games. We have all kinds of things happening. Transfers. How does that affect graduation rate? How does it affect what a player can major in? Maybe he's majoring in business in this school. He transfers. He's got to get in general studies because he can't be eligible. So all these underlying sort of issues that it seems like because players are making money, that's better for them, which I'm all for players making money. But how can we maintain the integrity of them creating value for their future at the same time?
All right, thank you, Coach. Thank you very much.
Do you have any ideas?
Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, I got ideas.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
The
Coach,
biggest one is not me.
Coach, I spoke to your dad's friend and your head coach when they were 79 and 81 in January of 2010. So I actually have the conversations and everything. They were cool.
Great.
Go for the 50.